In the heart of an endless forest, where the trees stretched high into the heavens and the rivers sang songs of ancient times, lived a mighty lion named Aslan. He was not just any lion, he was the guardian of the forest, the one who balanced strength with kindness, fear with wisdom, and power with justice. His mane shone golden like the rays of the sun, and his roar echoed across valleys as a warning to evil hearts. Yet deep inside, Aslan was lonely. Though all creatures respected him, few dared to be his true friends. He longed for companionship, for laughter beyond the roar, and for trust beyond fear. One day, as he wandered near the riverbank where the fish leaped joyfully in silver arcs, he met three animals who seemed kind, gentle, and eager to be his friends. There was Zira the jackal, lean and clever, with eyes that darted like shadows. There was Muna the crow, sharp-beaked and talkative, always hopping from branch to branch. And there was Bahir the hyena, whose laugh rolled like thunder in the night and whose teeth gleamed under the moon. They greeted Aslan with warmth, pretending to admire his strength and his wisdom. "O great lion," said Zira, bowing low, "we wish to walk beside you, to serve you and to share in your life. We are but small creatures, yet together we can stand strong." Aslan's heart, hungry for friends, softened. He looked at them not as predators or scavengers, but as companions. "If you walk with me," Aslan said gently, "then let loyalty be your path, honesty be your food, and kindness be your shelter. For friendship is not built on hunger but on truth." They all agreed eagerly, nodding and praising his noble words. For many days they roamed the forest together. Aslan shared his food, his den, and his wisdom. He hunted and allowed them to eat from his catch. He guarded them from larger beasts. He even told them stories of the stars, of how the moon was once a lioness watching over her cubs. At first the forest seemed to sing with harmony, but in the shadows of their hearts greed began to grow. Zero, with his cunning mind, whispered to Muna and Bahir, "Why should we eat only what Aslan spares for us? He is strong, yes, but he takes the lion's share. If we were clever, we could trick him and take more for ourselves." Muna the crow flapped her wings and croaked, "True. Why should he always be the leader? Without us he would have no eyes in the sky, no warning of danger. We deserve more." Bahir the hyena chuckled greedily, his laugh echoing like broken promises. "Yes, yes, we should feast like kings, but how? His strength is beyond ours." Zira narrowed his eyes. "Not strength but trickery. Let us be patient, let us pretend loyalty, and when the time is right we shall turn his trust into our treasure." Days turned to weeks and Aslan continued to share with them, unaware of the darkness brewing behind their smiles. One evening, after a long hunt, Aslan brought down a great stag. The forest floor trembled as the animal fell, and Aslan roared with triumph. He looked at his friends with pride. "Tonight we feast together, for the stag is large and no creature shall go hungry." He tore the meat and placed generous portions before each of them. But Zira, Muna, and Bahir looked at their portions with dissatisfaction. They wanted more, always more. "Why must he decide what we eat?" whispered Zira to Bahir. "Why not claim the feast as ours? With his strength spent on the hunt he may be weak." Bahir's laugh trembled in the air. Muna flapped her wings, circling above, yet they did nothing, not yet, for fear still lingered in their hearts. That night as Aslan slept, Zira crept close to Muna and Bahir. "Brothers," he hissed, "listen well. A time will come when Aslan will trust us completely. When that day comes, we shall betray him, for in betrayal lies our fortune." Muna and Bahir nodded, though unease flickered in their eyes. Weeks passed, and Aslan grew to trust them more deeply. He shared his den when rains poured, he shielded them when wolves prowled, and he carried them across rivers when the waters ran high. His heart swelled with joy, believing he had finally found true friends. One day, while the sun blazed above, Aslan said, "My friends, I must journey beyond the hills for 3 days. Guard the forest in my absence, share the food wisely, and remember the bond of our friendship." The moment he left, Zira's eyes glittered with hunger. "Now the forest is ours," he barked. They raided nests, they stole from burrows, they scared smaller animals and took their food. They laughed at the cries of the weak, saying, "We are the friends of the lion, none can oppose us." But in their greed, they forgot that power borrowed is never truly theirs. When Aslan returned, he found the forest trembling in fear. Birds refused to sing, rabbits hid deep in their holes, and even the rivers seemed to flow in silence. What has happened here? That night the forest air was heavy with silence. Clouds drifted across the moon, casting long shadows between the trees. Aslan slept with his great head resting upon his paws, breathing softly, unaware that danger was creeping closer, not from predators of the wild but from the very ones he called friends. Zira's eyes gleamed in the darkness like burning coals. He slithered closer to Muna and Bahir, whispering words soaked with venom. "He trusts us so much that he no longer guards himself. Do you not see, fools? This is our chance. If we can wound him, weaken him, he will never again rule over us. We shall be kings of this forest." Muna, perched on a low branch above them, shuffled uneasily. Her feathers bristled against the cold wind. "But he is a lion, Zira. His strength is like fire, his roar shakes mountains. Even 3 of us together cannot bring him down." Bahir, always greedy but not brave, gnawed on a bone as his laugh bubbled. "Perhaps not in strength but in trickery. Yes, trickery could break him. I have tasted his hunts, his shelter, his trust, yet every mouthful only makes me hungrier. I want the forest to bow before me, to fear my laugh, to offer me food without question." Zira hissed in agreement. "Then let us trick him, not by claws or teeth but by lies. If we divide him from the forest, if we make him believe he is hated, he will weaken. A lion's strength lies not only in his body but in his heart." And so their plan began. At dawn they scattered across the forest, spreading whispers like poison in water. Zira told the deer that Aslan planned to hunt their fawns. Muna croaked to the birds that Aslan had sworn to tear down their nests. Bahir laughed to the rabbits that Aslan had marked their burrows for his hunger. Fear spread like fire through dry grass. By sunset, the forest no longer looked at Aslan with trust but with terror. When he walked through the trees, eyes widened, wings fluttered, and tiny paws scurried away. He sensed it at once. His heart tightened. Why do they flee from me? He asked aloud, but only the wind answered. That evening as he returned to his den, he found Zira, Muna, and Bahir waiting with downcast faces. "O Aslan," Zira said with false sorrow, "we have heard terrible things. The forest believes you are planning to destroy them. They fear your strength, your hunger, your roar." Muna croaked, "They no longer trust you. They see you not as a guardian but as a tyrant." Bahir laughed softly, shaking his head. "It is sad, my friend, but perhaps it is true. Perhaps they see in you not a protector but a predator." Aslan's chest tightened with pain. His eyes dimmed, his golden mane seeming less bright. "But I have never harmed them without reason. I hunt only what I need. I guard them, not rule them." Yet their words gnawed at his heart. He lowered his head, heavy with doubt. "Perhaps I have failed them." Seeing his sorrow, the three exchanged sly glances. Their plan was working. They knew if they could break his spirit, they would soon break his body. That night as Aslan lay awake, staring at the stars, he whispered to himself, "If I am no longer trusted, then what am I? A king without a kingdom, a guardian without faith." His roar, once mighty, trembled weakly into the night. Meanwhile Zira, Muna, and Bahir feasted greedily on food they had stolen, laughing at the lion's despair. Days passed, and Aslan grew weaker, not from hunger of the body but from hunger of the soul. He hunted less, he roared less, he walked with his head low. The forest, seeing his weakness, feared him less. Some even dared to mock him from afar. The greedy friends grew bolder. They strutted through the forest declaring, "We are the true rulers now, for the lion has lost his strength." But greed, like fire, always demands more. Zira wanted the lion's den, his cave that overlooked the valley. Muna wanted to perch on his rock and command the skis. Bahir wanted to lie upon his bed of leaves and bones. And so they plotted again, this time to drive him out forever. One morning as Aslan lay at the mouth of his cave, Zira approached, bowing low. "Great Aslan," he said, "forgive my words, but perhaps it would be better if you left the forest. Your presence brings fear. If you go beyond the mountains, peace will return." Muna cawed in agreement. "Yes, yes, beyond the hills the stars shine brighter. Why not find a new home?" Bahir laughed his broken laugh. "Yes, leave, friend, leave. We shall guard the forest in your absence." Aslan's eyes glistened with unshed tears. He had given them trust, loyalty, and love, and in return they gave him exile. Yet his heart, too noble for anger, only sighed. "If my leaving will bring peace, then I shall go." With slow steps, his golden mane dragging like a setting sun, he left the cave, the valley, and the forest he had sworn to protect. The greedy friends watched until he was gone, then burst into cruel laughter. The Lion and the Greedy Friends, Part 3. The roar that rolled across the forest that morning was unlike any other. It was not the roar of hunger nor of rage but of truth awakening after a long silence. Every leaf quivered, every burrow trembled, every heart remembered the guardian who once stood for them. The animals lifted their heads from despair and whispered, "He has returned. The lion has returned." In the cave where the greedy three slept, Bahir startled awake, his laugh caught in his throat. What was that? He stammered, his eyes darting. Zira narrowed his eyes, though his body stiffened with fear. "It cannot be him," he left broken, defeated. "That roar, it is only thunder." Muna flapped uneasily, feathers ruffling. "No thunder carries truth like that. It is him, he lives." Panic rippled between them, but greed, like poison, refused to release its grip. Zira growled, "Even if he returns, we shall not bow. This forest is ours now. Let him come, we will twist his truth again. We'll blind the animals with fear, we will not yield." Yet even as he spoke, his own voice shook. For deep down he knew Aslan's roar carried a strength no trick could silence. Aslan walked slowly through the forest, his steps steady, his golden mane glowing once more beneath the sun. The animals peeked from their hiding places. The deer stepped forward, their fawns close behind. "O guardian," they whispered, "we feared you were gone forever." The birds circled above, crying with relief, "We thought you abandoned us." The rabbits emerged, trembling yet hopeful. "The forest suffered in your absence, Aslan. The jackal, the crow, the hyena, they brought only cruelty." Aslan's eyes softened with sorrow. "Forgive me," he said, his voice like a deep river. "I left because I believed their lies, because I doubted my own heart. But I have returned not for myself but for you. No guardian should leave his flock to wolves." The forest trembled with hope, yet also with fear, for Zira, Muna, and Bahir still sat in the lion's cave. Aslan raised his head. "Tonight I shall face them, not with claws, not with hunger, but with truth, and truth will decide who remains." Words spread like fire. That evening, under the blood-red glow of sunset, the forest gathered before the great cave. The trees stood silent, the rivers stilled, the sky burned with expectation. On the rock sat Zira, his lean body tense, his eyes flashing with defiance. Beside him perched Muna, wings spread as if to cast shadows. Bahir lounged at the cave's entrance, his laugh echoing hollow and forced. When Aslan approached, the animals bowed low, yet their eyes remained fixed on the confrontation. Zira bared his teeth in a mocking grin. "So the broken king returns. Did the mountains spit you back, Aslan? Did loneliness bring you crawling to us?" Aslan stood tall, his mane blazing like fire in the fading light. "I did not crawl, Zira. I walked with truth, and truth brought me home." Muna croaked, voice sharp as knives. "Home." This cave is ours now, the forest bows to us, you are no longer needed. Bahir laughed, but his voice cracked. Yes, yes, go back to the stones, old lion, we rule here. Aslan's gaze pierced them like the sun through clouds. You rule, tell me then, what is ruling? Is it stealing from the weak? Is it devouring without mercy? Is it spreading lies to break hearts? If that is ruling, then you are not rulers, you are thieves. Murmurs rippled through the crowd of animals. The deer nodded, the birds cried in agreement, the rabbits stomped their small feet. Zira snarled, his voice rising. Do not listen to him, he abandoned you once, he will abandon you again, we gave you food, we gave you rule. But the forest cried back, no, you gave us fear, you gave us cruelty, you gave us silence. Muna flapped her wings desperately. Do not be fools, without us you are nothing. But the trees groaned, the rivers rushed, the animals shouted as one, we are not yours. We belong to the forest, and the forest belongs to truth. Bahir's laugh died in his throat. His body shook with fear. The truth had broken through their lies. Aslan stepped forward, his eyes glowing, his voice thunder. Zira, Muna, Bahir, you betrayed friendship, you poisoned trust, you clothed greed as loyalty. You are not guardians, you are shadows, and shadows cannot rule the sun. With that he roared, not in anger but in justice. The roar rolled across the valley, into the mountains, into the heavens. The greedy three cowered, their bodies trembling. Zira tried to speak, but his words cracked. We only wanted, but no voice came, for lies cannot stand when truth roars. Muna flapped desperately, but her wings carried her nowhere. Bahir's laugh broke into sobs, the animals surged forward, not to harm but to stand beside their guardian. Aslan is our protector, they cried. Aslan is truth, Aslan is justice. The greedy three, realizing their deception had crumbled, turned and fled. The forest breathed again, but though peace had returned, the memory of betrayal lingered in every heart. Aslan, though restored to his place as guardian, carried the weight of lessons carved deep into his soul. He knew the scars of trust broken could not vanish in a single day. The dawn that followed his return was golden and soft. Sunlight spilled across the trees like forgiveness, and dew sparkled upon every leaf as though the heavens themselves were weeping with joy. The animals gathered before the lion's cave, not out of fear but love. Deer bowed their graceful necks, rabbits hopped close without trembling, birds perched upon branches above, singing songs they had long buried. Guardian, they whispered, do not leave us again, your presence is our safety, your truth is our shelter. Aslan lowered his head, his eyes reflecting both pride and sorrow. I left once because I doubted myself, I will never leave again. But listen well, my friends, let this story of betrayal remain in your hearts, for shadows will return and only truth will save you. Days turned into weeks and the forest flourished once more. Streams ran clear, grass grew tall, and harmony returned. Yet far beyond the hills, in the barren wastes where no trees grew and no rivers sang, the greedy three wandered in misery. Zira's ribs showed through his thin skin, his cunning eyes dulled with hunger. Muna's feathers, once glossy, were ragged and broken, her voice hoarse from croaking lies that none believed. Bahir's laugh had withered into a pitiful whimper, his once greedy stomach gnawed by emptiness. We had everything, Zira snarled bitterly, a cave, food, power, fear, and now we have nothing. Muna croaked weakly, it was his roar, his truth, we could not silence it. Bahir whimpered, perhaps we should never have betrayed him, perhaps we were fools. But greed, even starving, does not easily die. Zira's eyes burned once more. No, if we cannot take by lies, we shall take by force. We shall return to the forest, not as friends, not as rulers, but as destroyers. If we cannot have the lion's cave, we shall have his blood. Muna shivered, Bahir whined, yet their hunger drove them. And so they plotted once again, desperation fueling their cruelty. Back in the forest, the dove came to Aslan once more, her voice soft as falling leaves. Beware, guardian, shadows that flee do not always vanish. They may yet return, darker than before. Aslan nodded, his golden eyes steady. Let them come, I will not fight them with hatred, but I will not allow them to harm the forest again. Truth stands taller than greed. And so the days passed until one night, when the moon was hidden and the forest lay in darkness, the greedy three crept back. Zira slithered low among the trees, Muna circled silently in the air, Bahir padded heavily, his eyes glowing with hunger. They reached the lion's cave, and there they saw him lying peacefully, surrounded by animals who trusted him once more. Rage twisted Zira's face. Look at him, still worshipped, still loved, tonight we end this. They leapt forward, their cries breaking the silence, but Aslan was ready. His golden eyes snapped open, and with one mighty movement he rose. The forest stirred, the animals awakened, the night itself seemed to draw breath. So you return, Aslan said, his voice calm yet filled with power. Not to repent, not to change, but to destroy. What have you learned, Zira? What have you learned, Muna? What have you learned, Bahir? Zira hissed, we have learned that kindness is weakness, that mercy is foolishness, that only hunger rules. Muna croaked harshly, we have learned that fear bends faster than love. Bahir growled through his teeth, we have learned that we will never bow. Aslan shook his mane, his roar building. Then you have learned nothing. And those who learn nothing from truth will be destroyed not by claws but by their own greed. He did not strike them with his strength, instead he stepped aside and let the forest itself rise. The deer stamped their hooves, driving them back. The birds swarmed from the sky, pecking and clawing. The rabbits, though small, bit at their legs with courage. Even the trees seemed to close their branches, the rivers roared louder, the earth shook beneath their paws. The greedy three screamed and fled, stumbling into the night. Zira's cunning failed him, his body crushed by his own hunger. Muna's wings tore in the branches, leaving her grounded forever. Bahir, exhausted and weak, collapsed in the barren hills where no laughter remained. They vanished from the forest, never to return, consumed by the very greed they clung to. Silence followed, heavy but pure. Aslan stood upon his rock, his mane shining beneath the stars. "You see," he said to the forest, "evil destroys itself, greed devours its own, lies cannot stand forever. But truth stands like the sun, it may set but it will always rise again." The days after the greedy three were driven away became a season of healing for the forest. Yet scars do not vanish as quickly as wounds close. The animals had lived too long under fear, and though Aslan had returned, some still trembled when shadows stretched across the grass, some still flinched when laughter echoed, fearing it might be Bahir's cruel sound, some still hid food away, remembering hunger under Zira's reign. Aslan understood. He did not demand trust, he did not command love, he simply walked among them, slow and steady, showing with every step that he was there to stay. He carried water to the dry burrows with his great jaws, he guarded the nests of birds with his massive frame, he hunted only what was necessary and shared the rest freely. Slowly, like rivers carving stone, his patience rebuilt what betrayal had shattered. One evening, as the sky blazed orange, a young deer approached him. Her legs shook, her eyes wide with both fear and hope. "Oh guardian," she whispered, "my mother told me you would protect us, but when the jackal ruled, I did not believe her. Now I see you again, can I trust you?" Aslan lowered himself until his golden mane brushed the grass, his eyes meeting hers with gentleness. "Little one, trust is not given in words, it is grown like a tree. Let me water it with deeds, let me shelter it with truth, and in time it will be strong." The fawn stepped closer, touched her nose to his paw, and ran back to her herd with joy. From that day the deer carried no more fear. The birds returned next, building their nests higher in the trees, singing louder each morning. The rabbits no longer hid all day but hopped freely in the meadows. Life blossomed again, but in the heart of Aslan a quiet shadow lingered. At night when the forest slept, he often sat on his rock, staring at the stars, remembering Zira, Muna and Bahir. He thought not of vengeance but of sorrow. Why must greed twist hearts? Why do those who are given trust choose betrayal? Could they not have chosen love instead? One night the dove who had spoken to him before returned, alighting on his mane. "O lion, why do you sigh beneath the stars?" Aslan rumbled softly. "Because though the forest sings again, I remember those who betrayed me. I wonder if I could have saved them, if I could have guided them away from greed." The dove tilted her head. "You offered them trust and they chose betrayal. You offered them truth and they chose lies. The fault is not in your giving but in their taking. A river may offer water, but a thirsty man may still drink poison if he prefers it." Aslan nodded, though sorrow did not fully fade. "Perhaps one day the forest will forget the pain, but I will never forget, for scars are the price of love." The dove whispered, "Yes, but scars are not weakness. They are reminders of battles survived, of truth endured. Let your scars be your strength." And so Aslan carried his scars proudly, no longer ashamed of them. He began teaching the younger animals the lessons of his journey. He gathered them beneath the trees and told them stories, not just of betrayal but of truth, of love, of the strength that rises after sorrow. The cubs and fawns listened wide-eyed, the birds perched above, the rabbits sat at his paws. "Remember," Aslan told them, "a greedy friend is worse than an open enemy. For an enemy you can guard against, but a greedy friend wounds from within. Guard your hearts but do not harden them. Trust but with wisdom, love but with truth." The young ones repeated his words, carrying them like treasures to their families. Soon the forest echoed with not just songs of nature but with wisdom passed from mouth to mouth, heart to heart. Seasons turned. Rain fell, rivers swelled, flowers bloomed, and the forest thrived. Yet even as the world turned, far away in the barren lands, whispers rose of the fate of Zira, Muna and Bahir. Some said Zira had been swallowed by his own hunger, wandering endlessly, chasing prey he could never catch. Some said Muna, grounded forever, had grown silent, her voice stolen by the lies she had croaked. Some said Bahir's laugh had turned into endless wails, echoing through empty valleys. Whether true or not, their story became a warning told to every creature beyond the forest. Greed destroys not only those around it but the very heart that holds it. One harsh winter, when snow blanketed the land and food grew scarce, some animals feared the old cycle might return. They whispered, "What if hunger breeds greed again? What if shadows rise once more?" Aslan stood upon his rock, the snow falling softly upon his mane. "Do not fear," he called out, his voice steady as thunder, "for greed may rise but so will truth. And truth does not fade like snow. It is like the sun, it may hide behind clouds but it always returns." The animals drew close, warming in his presence, and their fears melted like frost beneath the morning